Welcome back to Venture. I'm Cris Valerio. Today we are talking barter, and Don Mardak, the CEO of International Monetary Systems, is joining us. Thank you so much. So we were just talking about the cost structure and how IMS barter makes its revenue. I want to talk a little bit about the growth of the business, because you began in 1985. You grew the business, obviously, organically, but you've also made a lot of acquisitions. I was looking just at the timeline. Major acquisitions. I mean, how many acquisitions did you guys make?
We've done about 26 or 27 to date.
So a huge part of the growth of your company.
Yes.
Where did that decision come from?
It started, actually, remember this, I started the business in 1985, and by 1989, we had about 300 members. And we were a small company. I was bringing in $6,000 or $8,000 a month in income for the firm, and that was it. And at that time, there was a trade exchange in Green Bay, Wisconsin, that wanted to sell out. And the lady that owned it had contacted us, and so we purchased her business. Well, she was about the same size as we were. And when that happened, a light bulb went off, and I said, my gosh, I spent 4 years getting to this level, and just with the stroke of a pen, I was able to double our size overnight. And not only did I double the size, but then we grew because of the synergy between the two offices. There were economies of scale. We didn't need to have a data entry person in both offices. We didn't need to have travel brokers in both places, and it became such a natural thing that we saved money and yet had much more volume. And that was the first step. And then over the years, they've come initially one at a time until about 1999, at which point we raised some capital. We did a private placement with a small brokerage firm in the Milwaukee area, and by raising that capital, we were then able to start accelerating the pace a bit and buying more companies. But the greatest growth came after 2001, when we went public. We actually had our stock, we did a small IPO and had our stock then to begin trading on the bulletin board.
Now, what was that change like for you, going from that private company, making the acquisitions you want to make, to having shareholders to answer to? And do you still like the decision that you made?
It's quite interesting. I was asked a question for a publication some time ago, what was the smartest thing you ever did? And I said, going public. And then they said, what was the dumbest thing you ever did? And I said, going public. It's a two-edged sword, as you know. With all the reporting and all of the, now with Sarbanes-Oxley, it's a very expensive proposition for a small company. Nonetheless, it gave us the ability to make the acquisitions, because we now had a second currency, not just cash, but we could use our stock as a vehicle, as a currency to use in making those acquisitions. We also have made some acquisitions using some of our trade dollars as well.
Really? Okay, explain that.
Well, many of the owners have lived with trade all their lives, and they didn't want to give up the trade, so they accepted some trade dollars as part of the purchase price.
And then they cashed those dollars in.
They would use them for needed goods and services in their life.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about those trade dollars, because you work not only at a local and a regional level, but at a national level too. So how do you set the boundaries, I guess, within corporations wanting to do trade dollars? I mean, are there boundaries? Do you have regions that you're allowed to trade within? How does that work?
It's pretty wide open for our system. Remember, first and foremost, barter is primarily local. If there's a dry cleaner or a car wash or even a restaurant in Denver, if you lived in Minneapolis, you're not going to go to Denver for dinner or to have your car washed. So only the local residents of Denver would use that particular business. But if somebody has a product or service that could be shipped nationally, just as Amazon.com ships books nationally, if you buy things, think of all the commerce that goes on online. Many things are done that way. But what makes us so special is, while eBay, for example, is a venue for people to sell products, it's very difficult to sell services on eBay because it's worldwide. How would a local dentist or a local house painter in Iowa sell his services on eBay unless somebody right there in his market was looking at it? But our venue makes it possible for the service providers to also sell their products within the marketplace, because it's a much larger marketplace within each community. And then the fact that we are national in scope, in that area we get many more transactions going across the country, especially in the area of travel.
And we're going to actually talk about that a little later, because I know you guys have been expanding there. But one of the questions, obviously, that I have here is I was looking at the barter industry, and there are many organizations out there. You all kind of know each other, a small-knit group. But how does one barter firm differentiate itself? And that would, I'm assuming it would just be the members, correct? The services that are offered?
There are about 200, maybe 250 people like myself who started up somewhere along the way over the last 25 or 30 years across America. And we have come together in a national association. You mentioned the IRTA, at the beginning of this broadcast, and that is a place where we have annual meetings, annual conventions, and we do reciprocal trading with each other because the association has created a common currency that we all can use. It's called the UC, or the Universal Currency, and that makes it possible for trade exchanges to trade with each other more fluently.
How did the taxes work on this? I mean, we're still operating within a legal framework
right,
here.
Yes, we are. Taxes are very much a part of this. In 1982, Congress passed the TEFRA Act. That stands for Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act. And at that time, barter networks were treated just like banks, savings and loans, and insurance companies, having to give a 1099-B form to all of our clients and reporting their trade activities. And so just like the banks report your interest and dividends, we report trade dollar transactions.
Talking barter with Mr. Don Mardak, CEO of International Monetary Systems. Stay with us. You're watching Venture.